They are back. It's time for Red America Radio. Straight up conservative talk for today's red-blooded America. With the host of Behind the Headlines, TV's Karyn Turk, and Dr. Chris Metzler, political commentator and best-selling author. Making radio great again. Red America Radio.
Hello and welcome to your favorite show, Red America Radio. We are back. We have not gone anywhere. We'll continue to be back. This is the global podcast, radio show, IG show, everything you can imagine. Of course, I'm here with my friend, my colleague, my partner in crime, forever, Mrs. Florida, Karyn Turk. Looking fantastic. Look at that dress. Girl, go.
Thank you. Thank you. I like how you said partner in crime, except I'm the only one here who's ever been convicted as far as I know.
Well, you know, as conservatives, the left oftentimes think that we're criminals.
This is very, very true. And, you know, it's just the cover because they're the real criminals. That's the cover here.
Yeah.
That's the way that they play it. And, you know, as I say every week, I think America's smarter than that. And I think everybody's waking up. And I cannot wait for November 3rd. I'm really looking forward.
As am I. And, you know, this has been one of the most exciting news week ever. All the drama in Louisville, which was simply just sad.
Yeah.
We had that. Plus, you know, what is with Joe Scarborough? You know, all of a sudden now he starts wearing the same faded sweater every day. And I mean, it's just every day. I'm like, hey, Joe, get a life. I don't even watch the show. I just see clips. And it's the same damn sweater. Joe, you got enough money to afford a different sweater, buddy?
Yeah. Well, they're all losing their minds. So, you know, when that comes to wardrobe, I'm not surprised that he's just, you know, he's emerging from the basement, just like Joe Biden. It's probably the only sweater he's got there.
Well, and here's the interesting thing for me. It seems to me that the Democrat Party has learned nothing from Hillary's loss. Okay, why are they not campaigning? You know, they are behaving the same way that Hillary did. Remember this, guys. When it came to Hillary's campaigning, she was as absent as you are. There was no corona, and she still lost. And you know what? Keep pretending that the virus, as a matter of fact, you know what? You don't have to campaign. Keep pretending that the virus is the reason that you're not campaigning. Hillary never was president, never will be president, and neither will you, Joe, and president in waiting, at least in her mind, Kamala Harris.
Yeah. And Kamala, I mean, the whole thing is so mind-boggling to me. And, you know, they campaigned more, I think, in 2016 than they are in this election. And they're using the coronavirus as an excuse, but they're just absent. And, you know, we're still anxiously awaiting the debates. And, you know, I gave my prediction last week that, you know, a few days before the debates, you know, of course, Joe is going to be exposed to COVID and there's going to be no debate. You know, I'm just waiting for it. I'm noticing that, you know, he's taking the mask off here and there, then he's wearing the mask, then he's coughing. So I'm telling you, it's leading up to that. It's going to happen.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, what else is he going to be able to do? What is he going to be able to bring to the debate? Vigor? No, he's not going to be able to bring vigor to the debate because he has no vigor.
Yeah, and just even to be able to answer any question without a teleprompter, that's been an impossibility for him. And even with the teleprompter, it's still not very good.
No. Even with the teleprompter, it has been horrific. And let's see what's going to happen here. This is just an absolute disaster. Like you said, November 3rd, please come. I can't wait.
Come. And you know, and every day it's like the countdown with me. And this week I have to admit, as much as I consume news every single day, and it's such a huge part of my life, I actually had to turn it off this week because it was just too much. This week was just insanity between Louisville and between everything that was going on and just the absolute craziness of it all. I just finally got to the point where I was like, I'm going to have to just shut this off for a minute. I got to just call it a day.
Yeah, because it gets to that point where, you do have to turn it off and you do have to try to regroup because it just becomes insufferable. Insufferable. And that's the point.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit. I don't think we touched on, what happened to our friend Shannon Wright, and I definitely want to touch on this. As I sit in this urban backdrop today of wonderful New York City, which we'll get to in a minute, and this is our New York State of Mind episode, so I felt that my backdrop really reflected that, and we have an amazing guest today. But I don't want to lose my thought on Shannon Wright because something very interesting happened to her, didn't it?
Oh, yeah, it did. So in the middle of her debate, so her Democratic opponent, and then the Rhino independent, because he couldn't win as a Republican. So what does he do? He runs as a quote unquote independent. They first give their introductions in the debate. After they've done that, Pastor Wright's about to do her intro. And all of a sudden, there is a Zoom bomb. So here's what happens. With this Zoom bomb, you're sitting there, and all of a sudden, there's pictures of naked Muslim women on her screen. And then you have someone yelling the N-word at her and threatening to shank her during the debate. Funny to me that it only happened when the Republican nominee started. If you're going to Zoom bomb this, why didn't you do it at the very beginning? Very, very suspicious. The good news is she maintained her composure and really sliced and diced those guys in the. So the good news was, in fact, she got really lit into both of her opponents and said, you know what? The two of you together don't even make one candidate. And so it was fantastic. We have some more debates coming up, League of Women's Voters. We have the NAACP debate coming up and many more.
And I'm gonna play that clip for everybody. So let's roll that clip because I want everybody to see just how composed she was through this Zoom bomb. And, I can only assume that this Zoom bomb was planted by the Democrats. I'm going to go with that because it doesn't make any sense to me otherwise. So let's roll that clip.
I sacrificed my life for Pakistan. Cal, are you able to control the chat room? I can look. Yeah, so it's a Zoom bomb, unfortunately. It's a Zoom bomb, you're bigger. Yeah.
Crazy stuff, Chris. Crazy.
And you see, as you said, you see how she maintained her composure. Yeah,
absolutely.
And I'm standing in the room, and I'm like, what? Yeah. So, but that's what happens when you have a Republican running in a city that has been controlled by the nasty Democratic machine. The stench in that city certainly comes not only from the streets, but from the Democratic machine. And as I always say, Baltimore's biggest gross domestic product is crime.
And speaking of stench, it is our New York State of Mind episode. And I, was very disappointed in going up to New York a few weeks ago and seeing just how the city has deteriorated. And that brings me to our amazing guest today, who you've seen pretty much everywhere from Newsmax to everywhere else. He's a commentator, an amazing person. He's outspoken. He's loud. He's that New York, Staten Island flavor that we've all been waiting for. He's got a lot of opinions. And if you're not following him, you should be. And our guest today is John Tabacco.
Mm-hmm. John is absolutely the loudest and the rightest mouth you can find.
He is, and I love doing his show. I do his Liquid Lunch show regularly, and there's nothing more than you and I like than a liquid lunch. So we're in that club too.
Yes, absolutely. Where would you be without a liquid lunch, folks?
I don't know where I would be, and he makes lunchtime more interesting, and he's got amazing commentary and a lot of opinions, and he's a native New Yorker, and he's loud and he's proud, and he backs the blue, and I can't wait to get him on the phone and talk to him a little bit about what's going on in New York. And, you know, New York is a good reflection for all of our U.S. cities, including Baltimore, where we see crime and we see destruction. And the Democrats are just intent on destroying. And they're pretty much at this point, they're destroying New York. And it's very disappointing for me, being that that is one of my absolute favorite cities, if not my favorite city.
Yeah, absolutely. It is, in fact, very, very disappointing. And you know, John really does an excellent job of explaining everyone why it's become the way that it is.
He does. And I'm gonna play real quick. I'm gonna play 2 of his TikTok videos before we roll in his interview.
Yes.
Governor Cuomo is a mutt. De Blasio is a mutt. Okay? Here's what you don't know, the dirty little secret. Cuomo and de Blasio need to come out public and say open schools so they can get federal funding. That's what they're doing. And they're using Mike Mulgrew as a little puppet to say, go out and say the teachers will go on strike. Then we can get the money. They're not worried about anything else except padding their safety deposit boxes, and that's all that matters. I spent 30 years on Wall Street. Every day I walk around down here, I see the NYPD. I say, thank you guys. God bless you. Stay out there. I know I can make money. I know I can provide for my family because the NYPD is walking the beat every single day.
We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Divided We Stand. The Search for America's Soul is the most important book of our time. Best-selling author Dr. Christopher Metzler answers, what the heck is going on, America? Divided We Stand is a funny, fast-paced, razor-sharp, savvy critique of the state of our union and the disastrous reign of Barack Obama. Political lion slayer, red-blooded conservative Dr. Metzler offers inspiration and a positive message to America. The way to fight back and win is principle, conviction, and a wicked sense of humor.
In the days of clickbait news and salacious eyeball-popping headlines, you must delve behind the headlines. Things can get so murky on the internet that it's hard to see. Behind the Headlines TV on YouTube delves deep to fully expose the real truth. Each episode, Karyn Turk wades through the swampy news in thigh-high boots, breaking facts down into bite-sized pieces. Subscribe to Behind the Headlines TV to see her dominate YouTube with real facts behind today's biggest stories.
And we're back, ready to go with more red-blooded American talk. Here we go.
See, that's the guy I love. This is why I love John Tabacco.
Yeah. And you know, the fact that he's doing it on TikTok, I mean, hey, so he's reaching everyone relative to that. So John's just a fantastic guy and such a pleasure to have him on today.
Absolutely. Let's get John on the phone.
An exciting guest today, the loudmouth himself. John, how are you, my friend?
Hey, what an eloquent introduction. Thank you for that.
You're looking.
People have to speak up right now, brother. I speak my mind on television and stuff, but regular people are starting to stand up, and we really need it.
Yeah, we absolutely do. And you're looking good, backing the blue.
Yeah, you know what? My father was a proud member of the NYPD, and many people are ashamed to even say they support the blue now. So as much as support as I can give, I'm trying.
And yeah, there you go. And your TikTok videos are simply amazing. We're gonna play a couple of them in this segment, but they are simply amazing videos. Brother, you are out there really speaking up, really getting the message out. And for that, all of America thanks you.
Well, thank you for saying that. It was certainly not all me. Scott Lebedo, my good friend, who's a conservative artist and big activist, pro-Trump, he kind of started the ball rolling and got, he's had millions of people behind him, traveled the country. And Frank and I joined him, Master Chef David Burke, great restaurateur, just, great people speaking to the community. We had, 1,000 some odd people there. And even though you go on television live every day, you're just looking into a camera. When you walk up there and there's 1,000 people and everybody on the side is saying, JT, get them excited, get them going. And you got to just figure, maybe if one person starts to raise their voice a little more, then other people know it's okay to do it too. So I just, went up there and let it rip.
Well, and it seems to me that New York is in play for the president. I have no doubt about that. Look at the clown who's running the city, and look at the other clown who's running the state. So it seems to me that there's a very clear message relative to the president, because this kind of tomfoolery and clownishness that we're getting from de Blasio and Cuomo, I mean, this is just simply ridiculous. What are they trying to do? Destroy New York?
Right. Well, look, they both have a tremendous progressive socialist agenda. All their lobbies that pay them all their money are all, people that want to push progressive issues and ideas on us. And you might want to check my TikTok for some of my comments on Mayor de Blasio and Mayor Cuomo at that rally, when I referred to them both as mutts. They're mutts, and they don't care about people. Mutt is an old school word when you can't curse.
Yes.
But, everyone knows what it means, and they're just mutts. They don't care about the people in New York. They care about their issues. And in both cases, Mayor de Blasio and Governor Cuomo, the main thing they care about is lining their pockets and their safety deposit boxes. And it's proven across everywhere. Mayor de Blasio's wife got $800 million to start the Thrive program, which was to advocate and educate people, create awareness on mental health. $800 million is gone. And when they brought the executive director in front of the New York City Council and asked her, well, what results do we have for $800 million? And she said, we have no measurable results. So any business would have, in advance of getting $800 million, would have to submit a plan on how they're going to deploy it and how they're going to equate their results on a quarterly or a monthly basis to see what the return on the dollar is in goodness to the community. To say they have no measurable results is to say that the money's gone and we don't know what we got for it.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a large part of the problem with the city. And we could do a whole other episode on Mayor de Blasio's wife and the kinds of things she promotes. But I digress. So we're so glad to have you here. And we, by the way, the TikTok video that you talked about, we are actually going to include that in this episode.
Obviously, I just performed for those pieces, being myself. The team made them into noteworthy social media by putting the little titles and graphics and cutting out little snippets. So, I can't take all the credit, although the passion was mine.
Yes.
I just got back from New York and I was shocked because I felt like it was really apocalyptic. I don't know if it was worse than I thought it was going to be, or maybe a little better than in my mind, because I had prepared myself that it was going to be like complete anarchy when I got there. And I can't believe what they've done to this city between just the mismanagement of this mayor and the governor and COVID. It's really desolate. It's sad to see because it's one of my favorite places.
Yeah, I haven't been going in a lot. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but our studio was down on 350 Broadway, right behind City Hall. And during the looting and stuff, they actually busted the windows on the studio and created a havoc in there. There's no real reason. Most of the guests on Liquid Lunch, right now, everybody's coming in fine. Karen's on, as much as we can capture her, but we have to have her more. Everyone's accustomed now to zooming in. Everybody's got some little setup that they can get to you, even on the phone, on the roads, to stop somewhere. And so to go back into Manhattan, pay $600 a month to park, pay $600 a month in tolls to drive in, to be in the studio 2 hours. We're doing good in our humble abode right now, and I'm kind of getting comfortable over here.
Yeah.
Primarily business television for about 15 years. My background is on Wall Street, and my background really is in short selling, which is finding overvalued companies and betting that they will go down instead of the opposite. And I have been shorting for quite some time, since February, March time, many of the commercial realty companies and indoor mall owners, because I really think the ripple effect from this in New York and other metropolitan areas, people are getting comfortable working remotely, going to a local shared space, maybe in their neighborhood a few days a week. And the big companies now, they're going to re-examine their metropolitan footprint and say, heck, well, we only need half the people in here half the time. So instead of having 30,000 feet, we can have 15,000 in New York, and have a couple of little satellites over there in Manalapan, New Jersey, and Montclair, New Jersey, and Poughkeepsie, New York. Saved themselves a boatload of money. And many people are telling me on Wall Street that they're getting more efficiencies out of people working remotely. Less commute, a little more ready to go in the morning. Guys are like trying to bang things out so that they can go do something with their family a little early, but they're being more productive. So I think New York real estate is what really drives New York City, is down the tubes, in my view, for, I would say, 10 years. I think that's what the ripple effects will be, because people are fleeing New York now because of these progressive, we have a dictator and a prince right now. You know what I mean? These two guys hate each other, but they're in agreement on one thing, that we should be a socialist society. So we have one party rule in New York. Both houses of the legislature, both the Senate and the New York State Assembly are controlled by the majority of Democrats. New York City Council has 51 members. There are 3 Republicans in there. So Republican / I'm libertarian. I'm not registered in a party, but I lean towards conservative American values. And we have zero representation here, because the Democrats control the state, from the governor through both legislatures right down to the city council, public advocate, and mayor. So, to get somebody right-leaning in New York is like, it's a Hail Mary on top of a Hail Mary, and then you still need an onside kick and one more Hail Mary on top of it, Like I'll give you an example. People here in New York are trying all these efforts to impeach de Blasio, which isn't even reasonable. The governor can remove him if he thinks the governor can remove him if he thinks he's unfit for office. That's really not going to happen. And secondarily, I keep telling people, if the mayor were to be removed, then until a special election is called or the next election, the public advocate becomes mayor. So New York City public advocate Jumaane Williams is conservative. He's in some ways, he's a faithful man, he's a spiritual man, he has a few conservative views, but he was calling to defund the police 10 years ago. Right. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for. You want to get rid of de Blasio, and we get someone who's even more anti-police.
Yeah. Because his work on defending the police is nothing new, and that public advocate position in the city tends to be quite someone with very left-leaning thoughts. You look at, wasn't Tish James in that position at one point?
That's right. That's the Democratic. That's the Democratic waiting spot. Yeah. Right. If the machine lets you become the public advocate, then you're in the key for the next big thing. You're either going to be the next mayor, because Bill de Blasio was public advocate, right? or you're going to be the next attorney general, like Tish James.
Yeah.
And that's the seat. That's the seat where, you know, they basically have control of everything, because if the mayor goes down in any way, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, let me tell you, I'm surprised he hasn't gone down yet, because I hear people on all sides of the aisle saying, I wish somebody would kill this guy. Yeah. And they don't realize that Jumaane Williams would then be in. So it's like, no, let's be nice. We can have a chance in 21. We'll have a chance, you know? But we really need somebody like John Katsimatidis. Mm-hmm. He just bought WABC Radio. He owns, you know, the Red Apple stores in New York. He's a great businessman, self-made billionaire. He has given money to every party, I think, over the years, so everyone respects him. And me personally, I think if some person that had some pro-police, pro-America values, but ran as a Democrat, they would win. But you can't win as a Republican in New York unless, you know, both Rudy and Mike Bloomberg were Democrats before they switched, or, you know what I mean? So Democrats knew they were just, you know, stopovers, but and they wound up both being great mates.
Mm-hmm. We could go back, remember, you know, after 9/11, when everybody united and we were so thankful for our first responders and we were embracing law enforcement and saying thank you. I mean, I'd hate to go back to the tragedy of all that, but I can't believe how far we've come that we're now having this discussion about defunding the police. And in New York, it reminds me, I'm going to date myself here, but of my childhood when we had Fear City and when New York was, you know, referred to as Fear City. And when I went back up there a few weeks ago, I said to myself, shit, this is back the way that it was in like the late 70s, early 80s when, you know, you were scared to walk the streets.
Yeah. No doubt about it. I mean, I'm much older than you, Karen, and I grew up in New York City. So yeah, I remember those times. And, you know, when we wanted to get into some trouble as young men, we used to go to Times Square. You don't know what the heck could happen to you over there, you know? But I did grow up, like I said, my dad was a cop, so we were always at least knew enough to be alert and aware of what was happening. But yeah, the city is an absolute wreck now. There's more tax dollars flowing out of New York City right now than ever before. People are scared to death. People don't want to live in high-rise buildings. People don't want to get any, you know, it's not me, but a lot of people still concerned about COVID to the point where, you know, everybody's fleeing to the suburbs. I'm seeing houses in New Jersey are flying up because people are buying houses just outside New York City and New Jersey to get into a little more of a rural setting and have their own space. So I think, you know, residential builders are probably going to do good, but the commercial guys got major problems.
Mm-hmm. Someone like me went to Columbia. It's like I look at New York now. I look at New York when I was at Columbia all those years ago, and it's sad. The economic situation, as you just said, particularly for the commercial guys, what do you do? I mean, that becomes a major part of the issue.
Well, here's the thing. We also have this other nut job here in New York, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Oh, God, yes.
And she's taking this moment in time to instruct her young followers that they shouldn't pay their rent, that if they need to feed their family, it's okay to loot a store because they have insurance, that the mayor and governor should keep businesses closed for as long as possible to get more people on unemployment. These are the things that our leaders are espousing. Amazon was going to open a whole big city here in Queens. It was going to be like hundreds of thousands of jobs, maybe 1 million jobs over 10 years or something. She poo-pooed the whole thing. These people, I say it all the time, guys. We were at a moment when you were talking before about uniting after 9/11. Right after George Floyd got killed by the cop, right? I think we were at a moment in time in America where everyone was ready to unite and say, all right, listen, that can't happen anymore, right? That's just how I felt. My father was a cop, and I'm being critical of a cop, right? Yeah. I think everyone could have been united to say, all right, we got to do something smart here. This stuff can't be happening anymore. And even if the media tends to amplify when it's a white cop and an African-American male, it still happens at a disproportionate rate to white people, and that has to be looked at. I think everyone was ready to be united that, yeah, we're all in agreement, And if somebody would have said the sentence to me or you or anyone, hey, Johnny, you know what? Black Lives Matter. We would say, amen, brother. You know what I'm saying? But as soon as, these hooligans put a hashtag in front of it and it becomes an ism, Black Lives Matter, then I start thinking that's when our moment for unity was destroyed. And George Soros and the other evil mongers of the universe who want open borders and a single global society, they saw that moment as a flashpoint to cause turmoil, to cause unrest, and to, in fact, even to keep Trump off the campaign trail between the COVID and the unrest happening in all places, states and stuff where, it's important to the election, blue governors, blue mayors. And to me, you saw it the other day, Fox News tried to snub out Newt Gingrich for mentioning George Soros, but all of these organized protests or supposedly peaceful protests. I'm a money guy. I work on Wall Street. If you're a short seller, you got to do the most research because you can never predefine your downside. A stock could go to infinity. If you're short, you don't know how much you can lose, right? So you have to do the most definitive research before you know something. If you follow the money through Act Blue and the different satellite organizations that George Soros has, he has built a way to impose his will on municipal elections for DAs and sheriffs, and now Antifa, Black Lives Matter, Act Blue. These are all organizations where Soros pushes money into the unrest, and that's the moment of unity was ruined by people who hate America, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you look at the so-called protesters, which frankly, a number of them were not protesters, they were rioters. And while the Constitution gives you the right to protest, it does not give you the right. You don't have a constitutional right to riot. And if you look at where so many of those people came from, they came from outside of the cities. And so those were the Soros people, et cetera, who were bussed in. And
that's a traveling caravan.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
Right.
And if you look at St. Louis, right? George Soros poured, I think, a third of the money into the district attorney in St. Louis, and the riots are going on right there in St. Louis, right? And then the homeowners who have registered guns come out and say, "Hey, stay back from our house," and the people who broke through their gate and are threatening them are called peaceful protesters, and the husband and wife with the licensed guns are locked up. Our society's gone into bizarro world a little bit. That's what's happening. It's, this is definable. George Soros has been, systematically taking down local municipal DA sheriff races. And it was just to do this, and they saw it as their flashpoint to George Floyd. We can't have a moment of unity here. We have to cause this into major unrest. And I think prize in the Cracker Jack box, what they found is, let's put Trump on the defensive now. You know what I mean? And we can keep, between the COVID and the riots, we can keep Joe Biden on the wraps and just, let somebody else handle his Twitter feed.
So, John, tell folks where people can find you, find the fine work that you're doing. Where can people find you?
Well, if you want to see more of the great work we put together and try to bring truth to the news every single day, we call it Liquid Lunch, the news with the booze, because I tend to have a cocktail or two to wash down all the stuff I got to swallow to stay sane. But yeah, we're on Biz TV every day from 12 to 2 and live. And then you can catch up with us everywhere on social media at Liquid Lunch TV. And on TikTok, I think we're Liquid Lunch News. We're not just TV now; we're all news. So,
Great.
but we're growing, and just trying to be another place where voices can be heard. And Karyn is often heard on my show. I love having her on, and hopefully we'll have her on again soon. We'll do a little home and home series with you guys.
That would be great. So, as a liquid luncher myself, I absolutely enjoy every effort at liquid lunch.
There you go. Well, so, don't forget, it's always noon somewhere, my friend.
Somewhere, that's right. So, John, thank you for joining us on Red America Radio, conservative talk for red-blooded America. Wow, what an interview. And listen, particularly for me, his backing of the blue is perhaps one of the most important things, because instead of talking about defunding the police, how about we back the blue? And I hear all these leftists talking about, we didn't really mean defund the police. We meant really restructure. Then you should have said restructure, number one. You're going to defund the police. You look at Minneapolis. Minneapolis City Council now says, oops, crime is up. You voted to defund the police. And when there's a shooting, what are you going to do? Call the social worker so the social worker can also get killed? Folks, this is total and complete insanity. And if folks want to understand why Americans are voting for President Trump, it is because we do not want to live in anarchy. We do not want to be in a situation where we're focused on Black Lives Matter, the movement, the Marxist organization, which, by the way, when you make contributions to them, where do those contributions go? What you find out is they are all giving to leftist candidates. That's where your money's going, folks, should you decide to make such a detrimental donation.
Absolutely. And this is happening all over smaller cities throughout the country, too. Right down here in Florida, we have Delray Beach, and Delray Beach has now voted to defund the police, and the mayor's backing it, which to me is just unbelievable. And the fact that, these elected officials are not working in the best interest of their citizens, which you're not working in the best interest of your citizens if you're going to allow them to be at risk of crime. That's the bottom line. So I don't even understand, this whole thing defies logic in every way, shape, and form. And anyone who says they want to defund the police is just a fucking idiot.
And that's it. Yeah, and that's it. Because only a fucking idiot would say that.
Exactly. That's the bottom line. That's it, And I'm so glad that we have this show where I can say what's on my mind and I can use profanity, because really my life is not the same without it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, come on, please. Where would we be without liquid lunches and profanity?
Liquid lunches and profanity are two of my favorite things. And, again, I want to remind our viewers, not only can you catch us everywhere now, we're on iHeart, we're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, we're absolutely everywhere you want to listen to a great podcast. But, we have so many great video elements, too. I encourage you to go ahead and catch our live feed on Facebook every week, or, maybe catch up with us on YouTube, because all of our videos are posted on YouTube. And that's where you can get the best video content. And, you can see us in person because, we're pretty easy on the eyes. And, I think our visuals are pretty good.
I agree. I agree. So there you have it.
Yeah, there you have it. And John's, John's in that club too. I think John's pretty easy on the eyes too. So I think the three of us together, it's a pretty attractive show this week.
I agree. Absolutely.
Well, I am just thrilled that we have this international audience now, and I'm meeting so many people. I actually had a conversation yesterday with a woman from Hungary who has caught up with the show, and she is a new American. She has just immigrated here and is really excited to be here in the United States, and she's looking forward to becoming a citizen. And we had a long conversation about the American dream and why she came here to escape a lot of the things that are going on in Europe now. And we were making some comparisons between, the Europe of the 40s and, what my parents escaped by, fleeing Austria during the Nazi occupation, and some of the socialist agendas that are going on in Europe. And, she was saying this is the greatest country in the world. And, I love our international audience, and I'm just so glad that we're gaining this international traction, and to see that people are interested in American politics and interested in re-electing the greatest president of my generation, President Trump.
Absolutely. We cannot wait for that re-election to occur, and then we can get on with our lives.
Absolutely.
And so I'm excited, so excited to learn about the new justice who is going to be on the Supreme Court. As it relates to the Supreme Court, I hear the liberals moaning and groaning about the Supreme Court. Here's what happened. When Obama was president, he had control of both the House and the Senate. At that time, he did nothing to fill the courts, which is why the president has had so many opportunities to fill vacancies. And we are sure that the president's choice is a spectacular one.
Oh, absolutely. And you can catch up on our Instagram page and our Facebook for the latest news. I have a lot posted there, and there's a lot of opinions flying around. So we're going to catch up more on that next week. And we have a really super duper special guest next week. We're going to have Pastor Locke joining the show. And if you don't know about Pastor Locke, you need to know. Talk about a big conservative supporter of our president and of freedom. I can't wait to have him on. He's got something like 2 million followers, and it just goes to show that the silent majority is not so silent, and we're alive and well, and you can catch up with the silent majority and the not so silent majority every week here on Red America Radio.
There you go. Red America Radio. We are the place to be. Conservative talk for red-blooded Americans.
See you next week.
See ya.
You have been listening to Red America Radio. Straight up conservative talk for today's red-blooded America.